Hey, welcome to the conversation. And we are talking about elevate yourself from achievement to fulfillment. And I'm very excited to have Dr. Teri Baydar here. Dr. Teri, how are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me. This is one of my really favorite conversations, especially with entrepreneurs, because we experience so much friction around this, right? We're entrepreneurs for a reason. Yeah.
Yes, we are. And we're gonna cover this. And for everyone here, first of all, as you're in this room here, we have chat. So we have the chat room, and feel free to say hi and share information, as well as this is where we will ask questions. Um, and if you have any questions for Dr. Teri and the topic that we are covering here, please feel free to say hi in the chat and ask the question. We love these conversations being group conversations. All right. So feel free to yes, there you go. Say hi. There are you. So okay, get going. This topic is very, very important for a number of reasons, but more importantly, I'm going to introduce Dr. Teri Baydar, and we are pulling from her recent book that she has published and written. So by day, Dr. Teri Baydar plays many parts in the lives of people around her. During the decades she has spent coaching high potential individuals, she has filled the role of mentor, friend, confidant, counselor, healer, educator, the CEO whisperer, and even my own personal Yoda. And that is very, very applicable to me. Full transparency, Dr. Teri and I have worked together. She has been my coach for a number of years now, and incredible. I owe a lot of my own growth and just fulfillment to her insights in working with her. So FYI on that. When she finds time between writing, coaching, and teaching meditation, Dr. Teri devotes herself to Love Conscious Human, a one of a kind educational platform designed to elevate your consciousness and raise your state of being. We will drop a link in the this episode for more information on that. But Flip Your Switch is the new book, a user's guide to a whole new mind. Dr. Teri, could you lead us in with just a brief on why you chose to put this book into the world? And then we'll get into the topic of elevating ourselves from achievement to fulfillment.
Absolutely. So, Flip Your Switch is a journey for anyone who wants to flip out of that frictional place where we're spinning around with our problems, getting nowhere, into a place of actually finding solutions and happiness and fulfillment and all of these things, both inside and outside. And so these are two basic forms of consciousness, which I go into a lot in the book, and it's the journey. Obviously, I can only coach so many individuals. I can only do so many classes or whatever. And this is the MC squared of not only how to be successful, but how to be happy. And we can sort of, in a way, have it all as long as we're not reaching for the wrong things in the wrong way. And so that's why I wrote the book, just to reach more people because like everybody else, I'm going to die. And I want that to be my legacy and understanding of these two forms of consciousness: war consciousness, which is a divided, disconnected state, and then the love consciousness, which is a connected, alive place where we find real solutions rather than quick fixes and money grabs.
Yeah, yeah. I've read the book actually more than once in the sense of it's actually a resource meant to be, kind of gone back into, and you can search specific topics like we're talking about today. But I highly recommend it, everyone. The link is in the chat there, and it's nice because things are chunked up. You've you've kind of created this almost. I feel like I heard you on another podcast. You said you mentioned like you could just read one little thing a day for a certain amount of time. Is it almost you created it that way?
Yeah, yeah. So it's progressive learning. You integrate in tiny, it's bite-sized pieces. Most of the chapters are on average 2 pages, and it's a very boiled down versions of lots and lots and lots of information and the process. And they're in a linear fashion, but they're also interwoven that they speak to each other. And 50, what you're referring to, I think, is I talk a lot. It's about 52 chapters, one chapter a week, super light reading. It's not about the reading, it's about the pondering, the thinking, the examining of your life, and compare and contrast the principle being understood in the book and how in your life that shows up, and is that what you really want, or what do you need to change?
Yeah, yeah. So it's so good. It's so good. Today we are really circling around really the achievement versus fulfillment kind of concept and conversation. And let's just open this. And by the way, these topics, this is really taken from kind of the later part of the book. Everyone, it's broken up into a few sections, and this I chose to focus on this for a few reasons. Some selfish and personal, of course. We're hosting this thing. I wanted to choose an appropriate topic, but I think it's very, very relevant to entrepreneurs and founders, because what is achievement and what is fulfillment? If we don't raise millions and millions of dollars and sell our company for $1 billion exit, are we not achieving anything? And is this just all for nothing? Or is there something else going on here? So let's start with your opening thoughts around fulfillment, and maybe layer that in when it's achievement versus fulfillment.
Fulfillment is kind of like, if you consider that today we are our future's past. We are the past of our future. So if your future self looks back and says, uh, has forgotten about stuff, it didn't really matter. If your future self looks back and says, oh, I'm so glad I did that, because that really moved the needle. And generally, what that is about participating in some form of greater good, or changing the way things are done, moving the needle. Whatever moving the needle might be for you in where you were born, what you know, and like what you would like the world to look like and feel like for you and everybody you know, right? So I think
Hmm.
that that's the number one thing we have to take into consideration. It is really about moving the needle, and that needle is something inside us. For billionaires and stuff, going from 300 million to 500 million, who cares? Doesn't really mean much. It's just numbers. And how real is that money anyway? We know very well in economics that money doesn't have any value until it's used in real life to solve a problem, buy food, make shelter for somebody, give somebody medical care, clean up a lake, build a factory, whatever you're doing that takes money. That's where money embodies 3D value. And it's really understanding this connectivity and why war consciousness and love consciousness are so important to understand. When you're in war consciousness, capture, contain, and control, you're thinking about achievement. Those tend to come up in numbers, amount of tasks that are completed, how much stuff did you get done? And everything is stuff. If you're in your right-minded love consciousness, this is brain science that overlaps with mind science and personal behavior and group behavior. If you're in your right mind, you're connected to something that is multidimensional, and you understand it's alive. Like it's alive. Like food for somebody is life. Medical care for somebody is life. A job for somebody is life. Creating a problem, a product that solves a problem for real, that's life. That's life giving. And it's up to us to figure out where we're coming from and where we want to live, because the fulfillment comes from connecting to the real live problems and improving on life lived, not necessarily on productivity and profitability. Those are achievements. Achievements happen for real, in a real, meaningful way, when fulfillment is leading the charge. Where you're trying to fulfill yourself, you're trying to fulfill a need, you're trying to move the needle for better fulfillment for more people. Because fulfillment is often happiness, which I don't like that word too much because we confound it with, getting what you want, the dopamine hit, beer, muffins, whatever. Now I'm happy. No. I prefer a much deeper meaning of happiness, which is like more fulfillment and contentment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's bring this even tighter into relevancy with even early stage startup founders. And we're told a lot of things, or we're I don't know what the word is, but we're taught certain ways of going about creating our startup, our company, and very fast-paced incremental growth and quote achievement. And so you and I have talked about this a lot actually around how you separate the that is the war conscious thinking of, okay, we need to, like, every day I need to achieve these things on this list, and I'm measuring everything and the metrics need to improve. How do we balance that with this sense of moving the needle inside, really going deeper into self, actualization and fulfillment, so
Mhm.
we're actually present in being joyful and joyous in the process of those achievements that were just talked about. So can we kind of piece that together? Because I feel like that's the general disconnect when some founders like, well, what do you mean? I need to do this month. I need to do this quarter, or we're done.
Right, right. First off, that thinking is very war conscious on yourself to think that, oh, I have to achieve these things or I'm done. Because as an entrepreneur, you're a human being and you're connecting with something new and unknown, or some need that's invisible, and you're bringing it to life and you're solving a problem. You're doing these things and moving the needle for human beings, for other human beings. So if you think that you're done just because you don't meet some, metrics or something, you're wrong, for starters. And that's a reductionist mindset frame. You might just not work with those people anymore, but you move on to continue on your journey of an entrepreneur, of a creator, of a pioneer, to be useful, to be creative, and to make good stuff happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. So that's where the reductionist mindset gets in the way. We have the idea that we all have to be the next Steve Jobs or whatever. That's actually not true. We don't have to. We can very much be the person that solves a problem, brings great uh, usefulness to other people. And I'm going to mention this book too. We've talked about this a lot, and I just love his work because he's talking. He's talking about the difference between being a predator in the marketplace or being a creator in the marketplace. I believe that that's really super important. And so what these two together, this is like the inside job, this is the outside job. So this is what you need to do on the inside to understand and operate on the outside. Don't be a locust. So when we're in the reductionist mindset, we fall into all the stuff that the VCs are teaching us. or like 90% of the VCs or 90% of the capitalists that are out there as behaving and operating like predators. Yes, they love creators. They love entrepreneurs who are coming by and coming up with solutions. Why? Because that gives them something to feed off of,
Mhm.
right? Without the creators, there's nothing to feed off of. There's nobody, nothing to exploit. So I always say to all of my small, medium enterprise CEOs and startup kids and stuff like that, they don't want to, they say they want to help you, but they really just want to help themselves to you. They are coming from a reductionist mindset. They want your proof of concept. Why? Because they want to see how exploitable it is, how scalable it is, so that they can make lots of money. They don't actually care about solving the problem. And this is the difference between the achievement model, which is get lots of money or lots of followers or whatever your metric is, and then you'll be happy. No, never worked for anybody for happiness. You might get money, you might get followers. It does not guarantee actual success or fulfillment. Actual success or fulfillment comes first for the creators. The creators create. They create value that the rest of us can actually use, like the guy who invented the internet protocol and gave it away.
Mhm.
That's why we have the internet. Because before that, there were internet protocols, but they were only owned by governments that were not giving it away. They were using it for their military purposes. So we have to understand that somebody did not patent something and did not, he got his, I mean, he's a karmic billionaire. He did something that all of us can work with, right? And I would imagine he was fulfilled enough. He didn't think he needed to squeeze everybody every time they use his internet protocol or build something off of it.
Yeah. And that actually leads into one of the just one of the talking points that I had pulled out of the book here, striving to fit in versus striving for fulfillment. And I think that's a great example of Tim Berners-Lee, one of the individuals that created the internet, the protocol, and absolutely for sure, put it into the world. And I think there's very few humans on this earth that has impacted that many people, like in a somewhat way, right? Like the billions and pretty much every human being on this earth is using his technology and his impact. And that's incredible. And he chose to, he chose to do something different and for his fulfillment versus just trying to fit in. So let's kind of pull that apart a little bit. You've written about that of this new, essentially new way of business under this underlying structure of how we do business, and then also the fitting in. And I'm going to slide this in because I just think it's fitting too. Um, I've been creating content on this tour. Okay, we're deep into this tour now, and it's been fun. And I've found myself a number of times, speaking to the camera about being different and choosing a unique path because that's how people, stick out. Don't just try to fit in. And I've felt that, and I've noticed that recently in the cities that I'm in. I was just in Florence. We have museums, we have statues, we have things about these people. And these people did not fit in. These people were very different and probably weird. But now we celebrate them like the most amazing humans that have walked the earth. So let's talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like my favorite thing from Steve Jobs is follow your heart because it somehow knows, who you want to be and what you want to do. Kind of, I'm misquoting that. But the idea is that really we all have something to say and something to do. Not all of us are going to have a statue, erected in our name or our likeness, but a lot of us can do a lot of things to help a lot of people. And that is really fulfilling. It's like Wouldn't you just love to have hundreds of happy customers in whatever you do? Like, if, right? You just like that feels good because your customers are happy. You're actually doing something for them to help them. And if they're really happy, they're going to be your advocates and it's going to create a snowball. So it's just, but you have to be able to do what you came here to do, which means you need to stop identifying with the social constructs outside of yourself, what society or other people or systems or, whatever have told you you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. Instead, what are you here to do? What really matters to you? And there's a point, and I always talk about this with my clients a lot because it's a big question, is like finding your calling. It's not some woo-woo thing. No, it's like what matters to you. Now, sometimes it's, well, what is fundamentally pissing you off about the way the world runs? What can you do to shift that from where you are instead of blaming others, or it's the government or it's leadership or it's corporations or whatever. Instead of blaming, start claiming and figure out what you came here to do. That feels great. And then you're stepping into fulfillment. Because guess what? If you are in the left brain war consciousness, where you are in an internal conflict, as well as generally external conflict, if you are there, you don't feel good. You're feeling frustrated, you feel bad, mad, or sad. You're probably off track and you need an adjustment in how you're thinking about it so that you can get out of this spinning around with the problem and into finding a solution with that growth mindset and multiple touch points of open questions to self. What's really happening here? Why is this so annoying to me? What can I do from where I am? What would make the needle move? What makes sense? Where do I have resources to do this? Who can help me? What do I need to learn? Where do I want to go with this? So that's that whole, when you're asking those questions, you're in your right mind.
Yeah.
When you're complaining about the politicians and the uh, corporations or something, you're just pointing to a problem and then spinning around the problem. It only takes a few moments to point to a problem and recognize it. Then you need to pick it apart and find solutions
Yeah.
that are within your power.
So you just mentioned some thoughts, questions that would indicate someone is on or kind of heading in the direction or maybe on that path. Maybe a practical question is when some people this might be a little more new to them, or they're like, wait, you're using this like war and love consciousness, this right and left brain, all this stuff. Um, I guess the question is like when is someone at the like, ooh, I want to start go I feel that I want to go down this path of the getting out of the trying to fit in and going into fulfillment or whatnot. Like what indicators are they kind of are what indicators are popping out that are like, okay, they want to start going down this path?
Right. And it's always a slippery slope, and it takes a lot of practice, just like meditation, to get out of what I call the left brain into the right mind. So when we're looking at left brain, this is fun. This is linear thinking. Yes, no, right, wrong, good, bad. I'm one up, they're down. Somebody wins, somebody loses. And you basically from that place, we're in war mode. We want to capture, contain, and control, and eventually kill maybe something out there. And there's functionality to that, but that's not what it should lead us. That's just tactical, practical stuff that we may have to do, sometimes not. Then when we're in our right mind, our love conscious state of being, we're looking at multiple things. We're kind of like step back, we witness what's happening, we stop being frictionally involved with it, and we start to be more the observer. What Deepak Chopra refers to this as the witness, and I like the way he describes it too. And it's like you step back and you start to see all of these variables happening. And it's like on a big screen in your mind. And that's why we do mind maps. And then you start to actually solve problems and you hone in on like, oh, well, there's this crucial thing. If we change this one thing, that would create a chain reaction. So the way you're looking at something is the fundamental way you know where you're headed, is basically we think about left brain, right brain, like the work of Ian McGilchrist. But he goes on to say it's not what the left brain is doing, it's how it's viewing the world. So if you're in your basically, if you're in left brain function, you're just picking, it's yes, no, duality, picking things apart in a linear fashion. It's basically binary, as in AI. Then we have the what I call the right mind. And with that, you are open. You don't know. There's no right or wrong. You're willing to be in that vulnerable state, to allow your feelings to talk to get a sense of what is I really want to do here and what makes this matter. It's a slippery slope, and we are constantly being triggered. Um, I can continue on this, but I saw you had a question. Nick, what do you want to do next?
Well, quite frankly, it's pretty applicable here. Julia is really just asking about the right, the left brain and right mind. So, just to go a little deeper here, when you say right mind, do you literally mean right side of your brain or in the love conscious side of thinking? You did go into a little of that, but maybe if you want to answer that a little deeper, feel free.
Absolutely. Yep, great question. Great question. So the brain, left brain and right brain literally have two different functionalities. Left brain is linear, yes, no, to right or wrong. The right brain functions differently with a lot of different correlations. I forget what they call this in computing, but think of it, that's the hardwiring that you have, and your brain is your CPU. It's the hardware. Beyond that, we have what we call the mind. Now, the mind is the software. The software is like the app that you put on your phone. That is the way of thinking. So the software of the left side of the brain is capture, contain, and control, right, wrong, yada, yada. The software or the mind of the right brain that flows through there, and these are all just representations so that we can make sense of this. That is this multidimensional thinking, this open mindset, and also kind of like a little more heartfelt, like what's happening, because the emotional centers are predominantly in the right brain. And then on top of that, we have consciousness. Now, consciousness is a whole nother level. And fundamentally, we have consciousness is the way we look at something. So if you're looking at something from war consciousness, you're probably functioning from your left brain. Somebody's right and somebody's wrong, and you feel friction inside yourself. And that you're defensive, which then pretty much promises a conflict somewhere because of the basic defensiveness with which you're approaching the problem. When we're in our right brain / using our right mind, we elevate into love consciousness, which creates a higher level of understanding and leads to something else, which I know from our notes for today, Nick, you wanted to talk about the daemon as you're in Greece. And so that leads us to what Deepak Chopra calls the witness. And it's a higher place of self, which really steps out beyond the duality and sees the bigger picture, which leads to, for entrepreneurs, vision, which is really important. So stacked on the fulfillment, you can actually build a sense of vision. And that's really important because that's where and how some things just they scale without any problem. They go viral. You know, Brene Brown, when she did her talk, she didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to do a viral event." No, she did her thing. Why it went viral is because she was so good at her message and it pulled on so many people's heartstrings. They were just like, "Oh my God, you got to hear this." And they just sent it to everybody they knew.
Mm.
And so that's where she did something unknowingly from a higher place of self and said it well. And then everybody else's higher self said, yes, I want a piece of that. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go into that, when you say visionary leaders listen to their daemon, let's explain more about what that word and what that means, and then flow into how that is vision. And I do have some thoughts and words to that as well, but would love to hear you, explain. Many people in this room might not be familiar with that word.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Damon, I chose that because I have so much background in wisdom traditions. But Damon is the Greek philosopher's word for um, the higher self. So they call it so many different things in so many traditions. It's the Atma of Atma Namaste. It's the soul in Christianity. Oh, I forget what we call it in Buddhism. Anyway, we all have it's everywhere. It's the higher self is like the normal way of saying it, but I like the daemon because it's really at the core of who you are. And for those of you who say, "Oh, I don't believe in God" or whatever, you don't have to believe in God. It's just an understanding of how we're wired. And when you look at your hand, you don't say, "I am my hand." You say, "This is my hand." Okay, who says this is my hand? It's not your ego. Your ego is something else. So it's understanding this higher self. I mean, in Freud, it would be the superconsciousness, whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter. We all implicitly kind of know it's there. And this is where visionary leaders go to get vision. But it's something you have to learn to go to because it ain't going to just happen. Life's not going to let you. It's not set up for that. You've got to do the work.
Yeah.
Hit me, Nick, with those questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you just said there, you have to go to it. And, I'm in some ways, everyone, I'm kind of in the moment. I'm walking through some of my experience and just this process here. Um, because I feel like, so we've been working together for 5 years roughly. And, before that, it was the best way I can explain it was like, you know, I started Founders Life 10 years ago and, kind of we're on this, just kind of doing this thing. And I knew that there was something forming. But I couldn't even put words to it. And I couldn't even maybe say there's a smell of something. It was just like, I did know though, in north, south, east, west, go north. Um, as we have started to go through this process, I feel that the only way I can explain it is there's a voice now, and I know when I am one with it and really listening into it. And there's times when, you can kind of track off it, but you kind of come back. And, sometimes it's a distant voice, sometimes it's really loud. But that's the way I can explain it. And it helps to have someone like yourself that, we can circle around this and talk about it frequently. But yeah, I would say that like, what would it do people just on the spectrum of like there's people that probably are not even aware of that voice or it. At what point is someone indicating to themselves that they're starting to hear it or follow that? Some of we use the word intuition and follow your gut, but is there like a line that you could illustrate where someone is now tracking through connecting more closely with that daemon?
There's certain things that a person does. That's actually that for me, there's like two answers to this. There's first off, the reason I work with entrepreneurs, in particular social entrepreneurs, is not only do they need to tap into this more than anybody else in order to do something and be successful and make a difference. It's also because if you're already considering yourself an entrepreneur, you're stepping out of what we call the socialized mind. So the socialized mind are people who just don't ask questions. The socialized mind is, oh, you said somebody says go left. Okay, I go left or whatever. I just do whatever. I was told this, I repeat it. No, even if it's not in my best interest. So that's the socialized mind. And most people are in the socialized mind. Now, entrepreneurs are doing something different. They're in what we call the self-authoring mind, and they're asking those questions to start with. So that's why I seek them out, and I sort of live in this environment, is because they're thinking. And some people call it critical thinking, but also, I mean, even people like Mr. Tesla there, I remember him saying, look, if you want to find your calling, look at the world, look at what's not working, and ask yourself what you want to do about it. I'm like, yeah, self-authoring. Ask yourself what you want to do about it. So we're all making a difference every single day of our life because we participate in what we call the group mind of humanity differently. We're not just doing as we're told. We're not perpetuating whatever we inherited. We're breaking the mold and making new ones that we think are better. And what we want is either for the socialized mind or the socialized people to pick it up, and that will elevate humanity, or we want to deepen our knowledge of it so that we can make something even better that will then, trickle down. We always want that coming into the group mind in a stronger, bigger way. Just like today, we look around and we're like, oh, no, racism is not okay. Oh, sexism is not okay. And you can't just refuse to hire somebody because of their physical something, because their skin color or their sexuality or something. That's not okay. Now, go back not that many years ago, my mother couldn't have a bank account without my dad. That's one generation. That was just my mom. When I was
Yeah.
born, she could not have a bank account without my dad. So it's like, okay, we know today that's not okay. And she was earning money. She had to give it to and it went to him. So you think about those things now, you're like, oh, that doesn't work. But that's because there were people who were self-authoring and going out into society and speaking up and doing things about it. Business is how we deal. So that's how this sort of thing happens. So being self-authoring is the number one, I would say, prerequisite for getting into whether you want to call it your right mind or love consciousness, whether you want to connect with your higher self, you have to be self-authoring. So that's
Yeah.
hands down the first thing you have to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to add into that, and I kind of want to at least kind of Lego lock in the founder and entrepreneur, experience. The way I would describe it is, depending on the stages of where you all are at, the very earliest stage, I felt that, it's like you want to fit in, but you're like, no, I want to do this thing. And so you start feeling like you're saying or doing something that is very against the grain. And that first phase, you're gonna feel maybe it's against the the stream, or against the current. So you're fighting. And it's literally like it feels like a bit of an internal fight of like, why do I feel like I'm swimming upstream? And there's a moment where, and this I'm tying some things in, which is kind of understanding that daemon, figuring out that self-actualization and then fulfillment, it switches the moment you start identifying that, knowing more closely of your daemon, and actually being kind of your authentic self, and in some ways not caring about what others think, trying to fit in, and especially with the vision of what you're trying to do, you're now just going down a path, and it feels like you've gone with the current. Okay. And the reason why I say that analogy is because it feels really weird sometimes as an early stage founder when everyone's like, that's not going to work. What are you doing? How are you making money? That's not going to grow. And then, talking about the VCs that are just like, no, 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 that's not the path. Like, in terms of if you really want to be fulfilled and successful, reaching that level where you are swimming with the stream.
Yeah.
it it's not the easy way. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's a freaking hard life sometimes doing this as a founder and entrepreneur, but you feel you're swimming with the current of your life and that self-actualization, and now you're in fulfillment. Doesn't matter how much money is involved here. That's what I experienced, especially like kind of that first 5 years of Founders Live, and then probably the last 4 or 5 years. Um, Definitely, and I don't know. I don't know. Do you have thoughts or words to what I just described?
I think you did a really great job. And I want to jump into like, yes, there's the frictional plot. The reason it's frictional in the beginning is because we're not tapped into the higher self daemon understanding of what we're here to do. And then so then we drop down into this left brain function. We try to over engineer everything. We want to capture, control, contain, and control all the variables, which is absolutely impossible. Never worked for anybody, never will. And so it's that you have to have some effectiveness in your life where you can like do things like buy a plane ticket, just basic stuff that you would do, or learn to use a platform because that's what you need to do. Learn to talk to people because that's what you need to do. That's stuff that we just have to learn. But stepping away from the over engineering, and I use this a lot, was don't kill it with conditions. If you're killing it
Mhm.
with conditions, it's just you're trying to over engineer it. It gets you running scared. You're rowing upstream, and you're not going to get anywhere. But you will get somewhere if you drop back and have a look at things and then understand the current, that current that you want to be. Choose the current, which is your tribe, finding your tribe, finding the resources and advice and people and organizations like Founders Live that are going to help you get there. It's okay, I'm self-authoring, I'm in the self-authoring mind. So how do I find those people? Instead of being with all of the other guys who are just rinse and repeat, they hear, no, that's not how it's done. Somebody told me this is how you make big bucks, or I got this degree because they said there would be lots of opportunity for me. I don't understand why that's not working out. Because you're just in the rinse and repeat. You're just taking it in and spitting it out. It's rote learning. It doesn't work, instead of being in the experiential learning and being like, oh, what's really happening? What do I need to know? Then you start to see, connect with what Nick, you're calling the current, because there's a fundamental life force for everything on planet Earth. We're all living beings. Um, the trees in my backyard is constantly very slowly, incrementally growing every single year. It's cycling through, and every year magically it gets bigger. It doesn't launch. It doesn't have a VC. It does, and like life has a way of building itself when you're in the flow of it. But in order to be in the flow of it, you have to connect to the part of you that is all about life lived and not about those calculations and manipulations that are happening in the left mindset, left brain mindset of war and conflict and winning. So it's really weird because in order to win, you have to stop wanting to win so badly. That is so
Oh,
counterintuitive, right?
that I love how you said that, and I'm gonna get to Laura's comment here in a second, but that was another switch, everyone. And just not trying to win, but just knowing that you're on this path, and then those trees is a good example. And Luis is on here. I've said this to him many times, like, look, we're just gonna continue to grow. There's one thing I know, like, it's just I will do this for as long as I'm on Earth now. And of course, I'll probably do some of other things, but Founders Live will continue probably after I'm gone, and we will just continue to grow. And we don't need this rocket ship, total like hockey stick. Let's pump all this money in and try to get an exit. It's not what this is about. And I feel like personally, and just for this business and what we're doing globally, is that is so great, right? And so I would encourage everyone to really think about, in that realm, what, if there is no winning, or there is like, you don't need to like set the parameters and go win. Just what is that current that really is something that can be long term, you know, really, really long term. I want to get to this before we're done. So Laura's mentioned, how does this maybe apply to, or, help people with dating? And, I'm curious your thoughts, but like, I'm gonna say it real quick, which is it could actually really, really help. It could actually, be a friction point, and depending on who you're looking for and what. But my short answer is if you're to extent what type of person you're looking for, it's going to be a massive magnet. But Dr. Teri, what do you think?
I think that's great. It's a great question, and
Oh, oh, wait, hold on. Oh, she didn't mean dating up to now. Okay, I read that wrong, and or it just kind of was written to people to date. But okay, so Laura, if you want to unmute and maybe say a few words and give a little more context, we can definitely have you do that. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, yeah, it did make me giggle just now. uh, yeah, I'm really interested in a lot of the theories and a lot of what you've been speaking about, Dr. Terry. But I'm keen to know what it means from a practical, how has it helped people? Because a lot of this, from what you were saying about the left and right brain, I imagine it's pretty difficult to measure, because that's what you're proposing is not the important thing from what I'm hearing. So how do people get help by following this methodology?
um, how do they get help, or how does it help them? Like, there's getting help, which is start with trying the book. That's the getting help part. You want to get help, there you go. Read that and then ask me questions on my podcast. You can come onto my podcast as a reader and ask me questions. But then how does it help them? The benefits, the basic benefits of stop thinking about everything out there as stuff and start thinking of it as alive is mind blowing. And we just talked about dating. Relationships, you can relate to other people, you can be with them. If you're in your left brain, other people are just things, like in the dating, men and women look at each other and say, oh, I'm going to get this from that person. And then so for men, it's they want to get sex. For women, they want a wallet. Like that is like the typical that would be war conscious dating. looking at the other person as stuff. And that is the fundamental problem, is that is not the meant function of what the left brain is supposed to do. It's supposed to be there to help you calculate what you need to do when you go online to buy a plane ticket or do some basic functional task. Now, then we talk about the right brain, but also the right mind, because the right brain and mind have superiority over left brain, brain and left mind function. The superiority is this finding peace, literally having positive enzymes released in your body, helping your body heal if you're sick in any way. Also, having a better understanding of other people, developing empathy without the empathy thing becoming a curse, where you over empathize, because then you're actually using empathy and weaponizing it against yourself, because you think it's your job to solve everybody else's feelings. There's so many benefits to this. I mean, it's like it's endless. So it doesn't even matter what you do in life. If you want to flip your switch and be happy, find personal fulfillment, even before professional fulfillment or leadership fulfillment or any of these things, or build your company to a place that is fulfilling, it works. So, I mean, I also do classes. There's my book. There's all sorts of things that are available. You can find me. And I do a cultivating joy class as well, which is only 90 minutes once a month in group like this. And it's absolutely mind-blowing. And it's mind-blowing for me to see how well people take it, use it, and come back a month later and they're like, they've understood something, they've applied it in their life, and now they feel better about everything. And then suddenly they're having better relationships, or now they're going to the gym. They can go to the gym before. It's because there's that, if you're in love consciousness, you get to love other people and yourself without being sucked down a rabbit hole of being used, but then you don't have to worry about boundaries so much because they become natural. Because you're not in war consciousness. A boundary is a form of protection. You don't have to protect anymore. I mean, and when you're not there yet, it's kind of hard to envision, because you're in the smaller mindset where 1 and 1 equal 2. But then when you shift, 1 and 1 start to equal 3. And it's mind-blowing, right, Nick?
Yeah.
I mean, you understand that statement, but it's really hard to explain.
It is. It's hard. And what I wrote in here, and I know we need to close up here, is crazy, but yeah, 1 and 1 equals 3, and it's hard to explain. But what I wrote is just what it's helped me in many, many ways, just so you know, but that I would say it just created, there was just a lot of this going on in my mind and just like chaos. It's just like, and especially later on as an early stage entrepreneur, you're trying to create something, you have all these inputs and outputs, and this created an organization and a flow, and ultimately, finding that current that, yeah, you're just more at peace, and you feel like you're on the path, not like a dog just looking around at the shiny thing, because that's kind of the normal human experience, like especially right now. There's so much, and we're pulled in so many ways, and we're supposed to be distracted, and we're doing all this stuff, and I don't know, we could talk on this for hours, and we need to close up. This has been really amazing, but this final statement here is, it allows you to really become more at peace inside, as well as feel at home in more of that fulfillment path, that of course, we want to go achieve levels and build things and help people and make impact around the world. That's always going to be there. But that fulfillment, you can already be there in day 1 or day 1 year, not have to work towards this big exit in 15 years.
Yeah. I think also, like, I like to compare this to, um, you know, understanding how the left and right, or the war consciousness, love consciousness, are not equal, that love and right mind dominate left, is like your love conscious right mind says, let's go on vacation. Let's take the whole family. It'll be great. We'll have lots of things to do. We'll go to the beach or this or that. And it gets very creative. What we're going to do, we're going to go on vacation. It starts to build this up. And then your left brain says, okay, we need to book a hotel. We need to buy the plane ticket. Oh, right. And we're going to need lots of sun cream. And then that's it. One is this, that's where it's supposed to be, rather than pushing us around, chasing all these things, thinking that those little things are going to work for us. And we do that all the time. And that's what I have an MBA. That's what you learn when you have MBA myopia. It's all the little tasks first, all the things in the Excel sheets. And then you say, why? Where are we going with this? What's the point? Oh, well, we haven't gotten there yet. We should have started with that.
All right. Okay. Dr. Teri Baydar, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And, thank you all for being here. We've dropped information into the chat, and you can find the book, as well as Love Conscious Human, all the stuff there. It's great. And of course, we'll do another one of these sometime in the short future. So keep your eye out for that, everyone. Thank you so much.